Hey everybody, Tony here from tonyshealthtips.org, and in this video I want to take a few minutes to talk about the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, which is of course viral right now. It's all the rage all over the internet, social media, etc. And I want to publicly state why I will not participate in the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. And on the surface, that statement sounds really cold-hearted. So I want to first say that of course, ALS is a debilitating disease, and my heart goes out to anybody who's ever been inflicted with this disease. It really is a just terrible, awful disease. It's ravaging people, it's ravaging families, etc. I also want to state that the ALS Association, where most of these donations are going, is a good organization on the surface. There's some great people who work for this organization who believe they're doing good. So there's definitely some positive things that have come out of this. Anytime you have awareness being spread about something bad, that's a good thing, right? However, the reason I won't participate is, as all of you know who follow my blog, I'm really big on follow the money. Where is money going when we have, donations and fundraisers and things of that nature? And when you break down, the ALS Association, when you go on their website, anybody can do this research themselves. Just click on About Us, click on the research that they're doing. It's very quick and easy to find out that the majority of this money, a ton of this money, $90 million recently, is going toward pharmaceutical companies, is going toward the Food and Drug Administration, okay? So, I have friends who are in the Occupy movement, who are really big in the Occupy movement, who are leaders in the Occupy movement, which, is all about the 99% fighting back against the 1%, who are donating money to the ALS Association. They're essentially, in my opinion, giving their money to the 1%, because this money ultimately ends up in the hands of the big pharmaceutical companies. The same companies that have the money to advertise male enhancement products to us during the Super Bowl. This money ultimately goes toward clinical trials. They brag about this on their website. It goes toward clinical trials, which ultimately ends up in the hands of the Food and Drug Administration, which in my opinion is often involved in suppressing cures and actually suppressing legitimate natural cures that exist to protect the interest of the pharmaceutical industry itself, which is, of course, a real issue. Nothing has been cured. Well, let me say this first. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a very positive person. I'm a very optimistic person. Look, glass is always half full and things like that. So, I hate to say this statement because it sounds negative on the surface, but, it's true, and truth isn't measured in mass appeal, right? The fact of the matter is that this money is not going toward cures, in my opinion. And I'll back that up by saying nothing has been cured in this country in nearly 50 years. Polio was in the world. Nothing has been officially cured since polio in 1957. We're coming up on the 50-year anniversary of the cure of polio. Now, I want you to think about all of our advances in technology in the last 50 years. Think about how far cell phones have come. I mean, they didn't exist originally, of course, 50 years ago. Think about telephone technology, computer technology. We've put a person on the moon since then. And now think about all the money that's been donated to fun runs, those little cans on grocery stores, counters, telethons. All this money is flooding into the pharmaceutical industry, yet they've ultimately failed at curing anything. The money goes toward treatments, which put people on pills for the rest of their life and is very profitable. However, pharmaceutical industries without a doubt, have just given up on actually curing things. Now, if you go to the ALS Association website, they say the money's going toward a cure and treatment, and I'm sure people at ALS believe that, and I'm sure that people that are donating things believe that. But the problem here lies in the system. The problem here lies in, for instance, the cost of the clinical trials and the fact that legitimate organizations aren't able to actually do clinical trials. Legitimate organizations that have cures for debilitating diseases aren't able to do it. There's a great movie out there called Brzezinski Part 1 and Part 2, and if anybody has any interest in learning about where the funding for clinical trials and things like that, how it actually works, I encourage you to watch those movies. The movie's based on an alternative cancer cure which has been helping people for several years, and the movie itself has nothing to do with ALS but can give you some good background info on the finances. So again, I respect everybody who's partaken in this ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. I think you're doing a good thing. You're spreading awareness. However, when those donations are going toward the pharmaceutical industry, toward the 1%, I think they're ultimately doing more harm than good, and that's my opinion. Take care. I hope everybody's living a happy, healthy life out there. Enjoy the rest of summer. Thanks.